The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was released in 2014, and like its title suggests, the movie really is amazingly terrible. Despite all of the negative things I said about The Amazing Spider-Man in my first review, I don't think that movie is terrible. It's bad, but I can rewatch it from time to time without hating myself. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the sequel. I'd rather go snorkeling in a pool filled with the piss and vomit of 1,000 COVID patients than ever try and sit through this movie again. Never before have I wanted to walk out of a theater so bad in my life. Had I watched this on an airplane, I probably would have walked out. I am aware that some people like this movie, but it is factually a terrible film on every level. I've spoken with 99 out of 100 of the best doctors in the country, and they all agree with me that this is a piece of shit. Before I dive into what's so horrible about this movie, I do want to warn you, I will be spoiling everything. That doesn't matter though, because if you wanted to watch this movie, you'd have seen it by now. And if you haven't seen it yet, then I promise your viewing experience will be even better if you think about these things while watching it. It'll turn a boring ass superhero flick into an unintentional comedy. This movie is so fucking bad that I'm not even gonna list off the problems and categories like I usually do. I'm just gonna talk about the movie chronologically and hope I don't get too carried away. In fact, you know what? Here's my first reason the movie sucks. The beginning. So this one opens with Peter's parents and it shows what happened to them. You know, what we were supposed to see in the first one. Pretty much all we're told is that there was an assassin on the airplane and he killed Peter's parents. Like, first off, any intrigue about where they are is now gone. But the scene is just so stupid. So the assassin tussles with the Parkers for a bit, and then while fighting, the plane just starts plummeting to the ground. It's because it's revealed that the assassin killed the pilot before attacking the parents, which makes no fucking sense whatsoever. He wasn't doing anything but flying the plane. Your contract is to only kill these two people. Was it because this guy was worried about getting caught? What's he gonna do, stop you? The choreography in this scene is terrible too. Even before the plane is falling, they use this shaky camera bullshit. This is otherwise known as handheld. It's used often by filmmakers such as the Safdie brothers or Paul Greengrass, and it's supposed to give the audience member a feeling like they're in the movie with the characters. In this movie, it's used to cover up the fact that Mark Webb can't film action. It's one thing to do handheld, it's another thing entirely to have your cameraman forcefully shake the camera on purpose once the fighting starts. I'm gonna compare this to another comic book movie that opens up with a bad guy coming inside an airplane. Wait a minute. In the beginning of The Dark Knight Rises, we get the introduction to our main villain, Bane. Right off the bat, that's more interesting than some nameless assassin. Secondly, Bane clearly has control over this entire situation. The assassin accidentally killed himself acting a damn fool. This wasn't a suicide mission, let me remind you. The music is so much better in The Dark Knight Rises than it is in The Amazing Spider-Man. And in Spider-Man, it sounds like stock action movie bullshit.
Crashing this plane. With no survivors.
Gets your heart pumping. We move on to another action scene, this time with Spider-Man. If I can give this movie anything, it's that I like the costume. Not as much as the original, but it's much better than that basketball crap. But once again, we get a butchered version of the character, and Spider-Man is an asshole. He lets so many people get hurt and possibly die just so he can crack some jokes. Seriously, look how many people die just because Spider-Man is busy dicking around and shit. We're also introduced to Paul Giamatti in this scene, our first of 3 villains. He plays the Rhino, but he's not the Rhino in this scene. He's just a terrible actor. He's caught almost immediately, but then we're introduced to Max, played by Jamie Foxx, who honestly is the only actor I feel like is trying here. His performance isn't good at all, but it's better than everyone else in the movie. He's just this weird, awkward nerd who's obsessed with Spider-Man, and one day he falls into a tank with electric eels, and it gives him electric powers. After this, he immediately goes to Times Square, and Spider-Man shows up like, hey, don't step on that metal thing or you'll electrocute everyone. So what, he just knows everything about this guy's powers right away? Then he goes from liking Spider-Man to hating him and wanting to kill him for seemingly no reason. What the fuck is wrong with these extras? I'm pretty sure during 9/11, people weren't gathering around the destruction like, oh hey, cool, look at that! They were running for their lives. And valedictorian Gwen Stacy is just as dumb as the extras in this scene, cause what's the first thing she does when she shows up to the fight with electricity flying everywhere? She grabs the fucking metal handrails. Let's also take a moment to think about this scene. The people run from Electro and immediately go up these stairs. But when it cuts to Spider-Man protecting them from electric handrails, you can clearly see the handrail goes all the way around these stairs. The steps go nowhere. Where are all these people running to? Have I mentioned how terrible the music is here? It sounds like dubstep.
He lied to me, he shot at me, he hates on me, he's using me, fragility, electricity.
How the hell does Hans Zimmer have anything to do with this? You know what? Nah, he had nothing to do with it. The real composer to this movie is Pharrell Williams.
Dude, if you could only imagine what Hans and I got to do musically, I'm telling you, riveting, that's an understatement. And it's not because I had anything to do with it.
Does your giant ego even fit into that big stupid hat of yours, you fucking
This film is gonna grab you by the edge of your seat. It's gonna be very tough to get up.
Hang on, you heard that too, right?
It's gonna grab you by the edge of your seat.
It's gonna grab you by the edge of your seat.
Spider-Man 2, hold on to your seat. That's if you don't get stuck by the webs.
Anyway, so then Spider-Man defeats Electro with a water hose. Do I even need to explain why this is so stupid? He could have just as easily been defeated by one of the firemen. So then they arrest Electro, and the next scene is just Peter goes home and decides he's gonna do some research about his dad. Where did this come from? The middle? So we're like 30 minutes into this 2-hour and 40-minute long movie. And at this point, the movie gets incredibly boring and slow. This is also when we're introduced to Harry Osborn. And man, oh man, does Dane DeHaan give one terrible performance. He's really good in movies like The Place Beyond the Pines and Chronicle. So I don't think it's his fault. I blame the script. They just expect us to believe he and Peter have been longtime friends, even though there has been no mention of him whatsoever before now. They just skip some rocks, and that's enough character development for these guys, I guess. And for some reason, even Andrew Garfield's performance as Peter has somehow gotten worse.
My dad left a briefcase. That's all I got, briefcase full of junk.
His voice is exaggerated and weird. Do you remember in Homecoming when Tom Holland made his voice weird to disguise his real voice? Well, that's Peter's regular voice this whole movie.
Hey, how you doing? Don't worry about it, I got you.
That's all I got, briefcase full of junk.
Also, for some reason, everyone feels the need to repeat their lines and say everything twice.
Peter? No. Peter?
I gotta find my aunt. I
I don't know, I don't know.
I break up with you. I break up with you.
That's a question. That's a question.
So then, Harry's sick and dying dad tells him that he's also infected with the same disease that he has. And even though it took this disease like 60 plus years to kill Norman, Harry's like out of time already. Like what, is this disease part placebo effect or something? If that's the case, then why even tell him that? So Harry asks Peter to get him some of Spider-Man's blood so he can... Wait, why does he need Spider-Man's blood?
I don't know how, and I don't know why, but he can do everything else a spider can, including self-heal.
Wait, Spider-Man can't rejuvenate. He's not the fucking Wolverine. He had those scars from the lizard the entire first movie. So you expect me just to believe he has healing powers? The reason that Harry believes Peter knows Spider-Man is because Peter took one picture of him from like half a mile away. And for whatever reason, Peter doesn't want to give Harry any of his blood, but he still finds it necessary to show up at Harry's house dressed up as Spider-Man just to say,
Sorry.
You're a fraud, Spider-Man!
So then Peter goes home and in a fit of rage throws his calculator at the wall and a bunch of gold coins fall out of it. I guess it's implying that his dad left them in the calculator for Peter to find. It makes no sense, but the scene that happens next is without a doubt the stupidest shit that I've ever seen in any movie in my entire life. Peter then takes these coins down into a subway with no explanation or reason. He just goes down into this underground, abandoned looking train station, walks up to some random ass coin slot and puts in a coin from the calculator. Then a whole ass fucking train literally lifts up out of the ground and it is revealed that his dad left it there for Peter to find with the coins in the calculator. Inside the train is a video of Peter's dad telling him that he's the one who made the spiders. That's it. That's the big untold secret of the movies. That's the reason of this big stupid fucking train hiding in the middle of this abandoned subway. Peter's dad used his own blood to make some spiders, and so Peter's the only person who could possibly get powers from being bitten by one of them. What a terrible reveal. Isn't it kind of the fucking point of Spider-Man that this could have been anybody? Peter should just be some random kid that happened to get bit. This shouldn't be his bloodline destiny or whatever the fuck. So now we're about 2 hours into this 2 hour and 40 minute long movie, and it feels like a good time to talk about how shitty the pacing has been. At this point, I literally have forgotten that Electro is in the movie, let alone the main villain. We've gone over an hour without seeing him, and the other two villains from the trailer and poster haven't even shown up yet. So Electro wants to destroy light or something? Just listen to his plan.
I'm gonna kill the light. Everyone in the city is gonna know how it feels to live in my world. A world without power. A world without mercy. A world without Spider-Man.
So Harry breaks him out of Oscorp, and now they're gonna work together to kill Spider-Man, I guess. At this point, I just wanted this stupid movie to be over. They fight at this electrical place, and Gwen Stacy shows up because she wants to be there. No more damsel in distress. They did that at the end of all 3 Sam Raimi films. Gwen Stacy's gonna be at the final battle because it's her choice to be there, Peter. She can make her own decisions, Peter. So after Spider-Man murders Electro by blowing him up, Harry shows up dressed like a shitty Green Goblin cosplayer. Look how terrible that looks. So they fight for a minute, and this leads to what I consider to be the only semi-decent scene in the entire movie. Gwen dies in what's probably the most predictable death in cinema history. She falls down a clock tower, and Spider-Man catches her at the last second, and she snaps her neck after hitting her head on the ground. The scene on its own is pretty good. The scene being 2 hours and 20 minutes into a boring movie while it's already being spoiled by its own trailer, yeah, it's not really worth it. So Harry gets arrested and his sickness goes away somehow. Peter quits being Spider-Man for a little bit. Then he watches Gwen's graduation speech and decides he'll be Spider-Man again. This is all in like a 5-minute montage, by the way. So Rhino is attacking the city. And let me remind you, we have 2 minutes left of this movie. 120 seconds left of a 2 hour and 40 minute long movie. And this is the first time we are seeing the bad guy that was in every single trailer and on lots of posters. We get this shot in the trailer, insinuating there's gonna be a badass fight between these two characters. And then this is the last shot of the movie. The trailer literally ends with the same last shot as the movie. It's advertising. Fuck The Amazing Spider-Man 2. This movie sucks so bad. I even waited around after the credits to see if there was another scene leading up to a third. And there was an after credits scene, but it was literally just an advertisement for X-Men Days of Future Past. These two movies aren't even connected. They literally just sold ad space in the middle of the credits. There are no words for this. I'm giving The Amazing Spider-Man 2 a D-. Very close to getting an F. And even with a D-, I can still confidently say that this movie was a failure. It does make me wonder, though, if they could have fixed the series with a third movie.
Part of the discussion was that possibly in 3, there was this idea at one point that Spider-Man would be able to take this formula and regenerate the people in his life that had died. So there was this discussion about that Captain Stacy would come back even bigger and...
Fucking never mind.